How real estate marketing has changed in the last 2 decades. I've been around a while and I've seen some huge changes. Back in the early 2000s, it would be difficult to advertise a home. We would simply get an address from a homeowner, drive up to the house, do a walkthrough, and we really would have no previous listings that we could look at of the house to see what it was all about. So we'd go in the house, set a plan in place, sign some listing documents, and it was pretty much on MLS. But some things we didn't have access to, we didn't have floor plans at the time. We didn't have any past history of other pictures because back then all you had to do was scan in one exterior front photo. That's it. That picture was uploaded into a catalog. The catalog was delivered every 2 weeks to offices. And if you had interest in houses, you would simply tear pages out and bring it to your clients. There was no online leads, no online listings. The top medallion guys would have about 30 sales. So 2 a month would be the top. To put that in perspective, our top guys now have over 100 a year. So it'd be 5 times the difference of sales from then to now, because selling real estate now is much easier. Some things that we did back then is I bought a digital camera from London Drugs. I got my first listing on 56th Avenue in Panorama Ridge, and I went by and shot a front picture of it. In fact, the picture wasn't even straight. I think it was angled when I uploaded it to MLS. I put it on, we had some showings, and that house ended up selling at the time for $281,000. Just to give you an idea, that house today is worth $2 million, and I sold that 21 years ago. Back then also, whenever you marketed a home, you would have 1 line of a description. Nowadays, you can have about 10 lines. You can have additional photos, you can have additional stuff on your website, but it was a lot different back then, but much simpler times as well. I think sometimes the marketing nowadays gets people more money in their pocket. Why? Because they can preview a home way before they walk through the house. They can drag and drop and picture themselves there with virtual reality. Our listing sheets, which today is 9 pages, back then was 1. You had to grab a pen, press hard, and a carbon copy would be given to the seller. And so when you pressed hard and signed, that was it. There was no changes, there was no initials. It was a 1-page listing and a 1-page data sheet to talk about the house. All you really need to know is what was the roof, what type of heat, and how big the property was. There wasn't else much to talk about. We never talked about the insulation, the wiring, the type of plumbing, if there was an oil tank or not. Times have changed so much, and buyers nowadays have way more protection. But back then, it was pretty simple. 1 listing page, 1 data page, and then your contract came in and that was 3 pages. It really went over some simple terms, subject to financing and subject to a building inspection. Those were the 2 subjects that everybody had. Nowadays, you have pages of subjects. You have all kinds of agency clauses. But then it was 2 things. Can you get financing and can you get a building inspection? It was simple. And real estate back then was a fun time. The emotions weren't as high. It was very simple, it was very straightforward, and you just had to be a damn good realtor back then to sell real estate. I feel like now, everybody tries to be a realtor. Everybody tries to take fancy photos. Everybody tries to do some video. But it still comes down to one thing: hard work and being honest and just doing a damn good job. And now when you market, you have to have floor plans. You have to have 40 photos. You have to have video walkthroughs. You better have some digital ads. You better be all over the place. So yeah, it has changed a lot. But back then, it taught me a lot of things. It taught me the core values of real estate. It taught me how to treat people. It taught me the very simple times of sitting down at somebody's table every single time you had to make an initial. And that's one thing that's changed so much in the last couple decades, is that everything now can be done by electronic signature. But back then, you sit at people's dinner tables. Every night you would sit with them. You'd have a tea, you'd have a coffee, and you just talk real estate. And you'd sign it. Even if you had to drive 30 kilometers for 1 initial, you had to do it back then because there was no DocuSign. So that's a huge change, a change that I frankly miss. I miss sitting at tables with people and having that personal connection. I feel like now we've drifted apart. Everything's done by computer, phone calls, selling $1 million houses with 1 click of a mouse. It's a different era for sure, but it's done differently and it's done better now. But back then, it was a lot more simpler and it was also a good time. I've seen some huge changes. I'm excited to see where the future goes with real estate marketing. I'm excited to see some of the virtual reality stuff that's coming down the pipe that makes you pretend you're walking in the house, the touch, the smells, the feel, everything like that is coming. It's going to be some big news for real estate. I look forward to you guys being part of it.